We're on live. Sam, welcome back, man. How are you,
We're
Sam?
on. How's it going, man? How's life?
Very good. I'm very excited about today. For those that are watching, this is the Change Room, Mindful Chats for the Game of Life. We've got an absolute special guest today. I'm super excited about it. We'll announce it shortly, but we'll do the quick formalities first. You're looking good with the blue bagger hat. It's good to see a Canadian representing there in hot summer Dubai.
For sure. Of course, we got to be repping. What are you talking about?
Very good. So you're looking forward to today's show?
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome one, which is great. We're looking forward. We're going to talk about all kind of things, which is amazing. And I'm actually almost like a little kid, kind of like, going into the candy stores, like, oh, what do I want to ask, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Nah, I'm very excited. Look, we'll announce. Well, let me do a quick promo, but let's do a couple of things that just to get out of the way before we start the show. I want to promote that we're on the Jumper Punch channel. This is the Jumper Punch live show that's going to come on air. Sorry, they're doing a live show on the 31st of the 8th, 2024. This is number 2. Join the boys, Rocco, Mars, and Polo. Their live show. They're going to have some special guests. Last time they had Peter McConville there and Vinny Catoggio in the audience, and they've got some special guests this week. That's one thing. The other thing is, and I'm noticing we've got a lot of people coming on, and I'm going to put their comments on shortly, but just bear with me as we're going to go through this. The other thing is, I'm just going to promote this. This is my book. It comes out on the 20th of August, on Tuesday, next Tuesday. It's for the record and off the record. It's featuring 40 hit lessons from Melbourne to Dubai. So I hope it's in the top of the thing. So if you want to order it, pre-order, it's available to order. Sam, today's episode, we're going to talk about a lot of things. I think main thing is probably courage, okay? Courage and mental health, and just in general. And we've got an absolute special guest. Those in the comments, you probably know because we've been promoting it. We've got the man, the myth, the legend. Don't
mention the name. Don't mention the name.
I'm not going to mention the name. So what do you want me to do? I'm very excited to get him on, but what do you want me to do? Should I put the... Why don't we have a look at some of his...
You mentioned... One sec, Rash. You're rushing into this, mate. Listen, I think, you mentioned something about courage. I think that's a beautiful thing, which you didn't tell me before. You bastard. So I think courage is a lovely thing. I'd also like to drop in the H word. No, I'm not referring to hypnosis, but the word humility. And
absolutely.
I'm kind of like an outsider looking in. Obviously, you know the sport much, much better than I do. We're here talking about really the psychological and behavioral angle to human behavior, sports, life, relationships, etc. So I'd like to use the word humility alongside courage, because when I was doing some research on our guest, our amazing guest, I found that was the common thread that really hit me alongside courage was humility. And I think that's really important to bring to light during the conversation, because it's absolutely important, especially in this day and age, if you ask me. But yeah.
All right. So without further ado, we've got a lot of people in the audience. So why don't we just put a little bit of a highlight package? A highlight package could go on for like hours, right? But we'll maybe put it like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and just here we go. Our guest that's going to join us, we're super excited about. Go.
I gotta ask you, what's your definition of courage, Rash?
Wow, it's being fearless, going out there and going out to do things that most people won't do, So that's my definition of courage. You got me on the spot, but yeah, yours.
Mine is very, very similar to yours, but I find it to be going against the trend, if you will. I find that to be quite courageous, going against what people expect but you deliver something unexpectedly for the right reasons. That's what courage means to me, for sure.
All right. Without further ado, let me put the highlights of our next special guest. We're absolutely, what's the word? Give me the word. Humbled to have him on. And just we're going to show a little bit of a show reel. Guys, put your comments in and let's have a look.
Back pockets because of the fact that Carlton have Lenihan and Wells, two smaller forward pocket players, as Hunter takes a great mark.
It was a great mark too, Bob, because that's a very sticky part of the ground.
Plenty of confidence this Carlton defence as the ball goes out there towards Hunter, and that's a mark and a half. What a mark by Hunter. Road of Rawlings as the ball is driven up there by Riley, and a good mark down there in defence by Hunter. Well, the two West Australians are certainly making a great debut here today for Carlton this first quarter. Hunter and a hurried kick back there, a chance for Tempany to mark the ball, but strong play by Hunter, because that's a crash hot to attack the Richmond one. Picked up by Hunter.
The centre of the ground, Hunter in front, and marks. No, play on, says umpire Dagger. Thought that was a mark from here, I must admit. Paul Rains has more luck. Tempany and Hunter. Hunter comes out on
The boundary line in the forward pocket for the Blues. The tap almost taken by Wells, but he went for it one hand and Hunter picks it up. Snaps through and a great goal by Hunter to take Carlton.
There's a lot more of that, to be honest. And we've got a great promo. This is the promo. I'm just going to put it there.
That is awesome.
Isn't that awesome? So
Dude,
without further
awesome
ado, let's welcome our guest, Ken Hunter. Ken.
A great introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Sam is from Dubai in the Sandpit, which we like to call it, and he's representing the Blues also. And as I've told you previously, our show is about mental health and behaviorism and helping people with limited beliefs and fears and anxiety and stuff like that. And we thought it would be great, thanks to Vince Lochisano, to get you on the show. And thanks for joining us. Really, really appreciate that.
Terrific to be here, and it's good to see an American wearing a Carlton hat in Dubai, of all things.
Weird, I know. It's totally weird. Welcome on the show.
We've got supporters all around the world, so we'll gladly have the ones in Dubai.
So before we get started and talking about something that's dear to you, which is the fifth quarter, I think first thing is let's talk a little bit about your career. Obviously, you've played 147 games with the Blues, wore the famous number 9. You came over in 81, I believe. You won the best and fairest in the year of the premiership, which is an amazing thing. So you won the flags in 81, 82, and 87, and I believe you retired in 89, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Very good. And you kicked many goals, although you were at the half-back flank. So maybe you could just give those that that are watching just a little bit how you moved across, and then we can get into the mental stuff. And you were in the era of probably one of the greatest eras in Carlton football history.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was very fortunate when I did come over to play in such a great club and such great players and champions, not only of the Carlton Footy Club, but the champions of the history of the game. But prior to coming over to Victoria, I was playing for Claremont in WA, and I started there when I was probably 17 or 18. And Mel Brown was my first coach. And I'd only played about 10 games, I think, and I had my jaw broken for the first time. And I was out of footy for 8 weeks back in those days, they wire your teeth together and you have to suck through a store for 4 weeks, blended food, and then you'd be out for 8 weeks pretty much. So I came back, played 5 games, saw a South Fremantle player coming towards me. He lifted up his elbow, he broke my jaw. So another out again for another 8 weeks of the game, and I thought, the season's over. So I was hadn't played much footy for the year, so I went up to Darwin and played up there in the off season just to get a bit of confidence, but also to play footy. And I came back and I was playing reasonable football, and I got picked to play in a state game against Victoria. And I came off the bench. I only played 23 games up to this stage, and Mark McClure was bouncing the ball down out of the back line of Western Australia, and I dove across his boot, and he missed my hands, missed the ball, kicked me under the chin, knocked me out, broke my jaw. So I had my jaw broken 3 times within a 12-month period. And all the papers in West Australia at the time were saying, that I should give the game away, that I was too reckless, and I was going, but it was just the beginning for me. I don't want it to end. So I just, luckily, I started to play some good football again, and some Victorian clubs started to notice me, and Carlton came knocking.
Excellent, very good. Sam, you got a question for Ken?
Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful story. I was doing some of my research, Ken, on you, and like I said, I'm someone from the outside looking in, and I noticed that a lot of the the plays and stuff were quite intense in terms of like physical hits and stuff like that. Has that affected you over the years? I'm sure it has to some degree, but to what degree do you think a lot of the physical aspect of it affected you mentally, if any?
I think it's been well documented about the struggles that I had mentally when I was coming towards the end of my career, and that was started pretty much. So I had a fallout with the coach at the time when I defended some other players, and we had a conversation. Obviously, it didn't go well, and I was dropped after that halfway through the season. And I felt that I still had a lot of good footy left in me, and people that might have been in this position, I'm sure. But I just kept on playing, and I was dropped in the seconds, and I'd get picked, and I'd be put on the bench, and then I'll get dropped again. And then I'll play in the reserves and play good footy, get picked, and it was just like in the whirlpool. And whilst all this was happening, I found myself going further and further down into a really deep, dark, black hole, which I had no idea what it was, or I thought I was going mad. I thought I was going insane, and pretty much got to the point where we played a game up in Gold Coast, and it was about 38 degrees, and we were playing at Carrara at the time, and I'd taken about 8 sleeping pills the night before and hadn't slept a wink, and ran out of the ground and played, and it was like being in a horror movie for me. And I got back on the plane, I don't know how, and rang an old Carlton doctor that I used to know, and he admitted me straight into a psychiatric hospital where I stayed for a while, and I ended up missing the finals, which was a big blow to me at the time, because I love playing finals footy.
Right. Wow. From hearing your story, Kenny, like it sounds like you go and come back and then go again. I mean, that's a pretty high amount of resilience and stuff. Is there a reason, like what was driving you to keep doing that? Like, can you explain or expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I guess, growing up, I came from a pretty poor area, and, my father left when I was quite young, and my mum tried to bring up 4 boys in a pretty poor area of Perth. And I guess it was just, I changed schools when I was about 13, going from a poor area, went to a rich area called Dalkeith in Perth. My mum started going out with another guy, and I ended up going to Hollywood High School. And I rocked up to Hollywood High School, and I had on green flares and a pink shirt, which was pretty fashionable from where I come from. But at Hollywood High, it wasn't so much. They were all the surfies, the surfy look with the long hair, the white shirt, the Bermuda shorts, and the desert boots with the rolled down socks. And it was made pretty clear to me that I wasn't going to last a day. So anyway, I got up, because I was a new kid in town, I had to get up in front of the class and tell them what I did and where I was from. And when I got up, as soon as I mentioned that I played footy, they all came to me after the class, and they all wanted me to go and play at their club. So it was the first time that I really realised how important sport can actually be in your life.
Okay, so that was like a driver, that was a motivator for you, you would say?
It was, but also that I wanted to compete at the highest level I could possibly compete at, and against the best that I could play against. And to do that, West Australian football at the time was good footy, and they had some champion players playing there. To really test yourself, you had to come to Victoria. So I couldn't wait to get here when I made the decision, and Carlton signed me up to come. So I came over, and like Richard said, lucky enough to play in a grand final in my first year against Collingwood, in front of Carlton's biggest nemesis, and in front of 115,000 people or whatever it was. So
wow.
For me, coming from where I come from, WA, and running up the race, and you could hear this almighty roar as you ran out in the ground, and you just take a deep breath and you look up and you think, geez.
Wow.
The big league. It was the big leagues.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I got one more question. Sorry, Rash, just one more.
Did you feel get people from the audience also to ask questions if they want to ask questions?
Sure.
Did
you feel, Kenny, that throughout that whole process or that whole journey, did you have like a chip on your shoulder at any point in time? Like, did you feel that you had to prove something to someone or anything like that?
Not really. I think I just had to prove it to myself. I guess because of my background and where I come from, I guess is that you had to. No one else is going to do it for you. You had to do it yourself and drive yourself to be the best you could possibly be, and compete against the best that could possibly be as well. My mantra was just go hard and go harder than anyone else on the ground to try and get the footy, and to hell with the consequences, really. So I was probably lucky that I'm still standing and still be able to talk, because I certainly caught my fair share of being knocked out and concussed while I was playing footy as well.
Wow. Yeah, a nice one. I got one more follow-up. Sorry, I got another follow-up.
It's okay.
It's rolling. The thing is, Kenny, me and Rash were kind of discussing earlier whether there's any set questions, and we have some some questions and stuff. But I always love it to leave it in the moment, because the moment holds a certain energy and a certain inspiration. And the last question is, it sounds like you had deep values on what success means to you, and you wanted to play, like you said, at your absolute best. Do you, for upcoming players right now, would you advise them the same way that you took in terms of growing through the ranks and to go hard, or do you have a different kind of take on it right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, and I think it's the footy's changed a lot since I retired, and it's a lot cleaner and not as many hits behind the play, or so the game's a lot safer. But in saying that, it's also a lot quicker now. So it's still a dangerous sport, and you just got to be mindful of where you're putting yourself in a position so you don't get injured, but at the same time being able to contribute and keep your eyes on the footy. So it's a bit of a balancing act, I think. Players today, I've got a lot of respect for the way that they play the footy. The only one thing that hasn't changed in the whole 125 years of the club is the size of the footy. So that's always got to be your objective, and that's the thing that you want to get into your hands the most.
Right. Awesome.
Can I go through now, Sam, since you've hogged it a little bit, but it's okay. It's fine. Ken, my question to you is, and what we're doing on the podcast is about mental health. And my question is, and for those that are watching, and I mean, there is so many comments going through. Sam, you're going to have to put them up because there's too many going through, and a lot of people are, obviously they loved your career. But I think the important part post football is really about the fifth quarter. And I just want to know a little bit about how you got into the fifth quarter, and if we can talk about the fifth quarter and what it means. And this is why it's related to our show. And then I think the audience can get some real value out of that, and we can maybe dissect a little bit about mental health, because you went through it yourself. And I'm interested to know also, on that note before you answer, is Was it what you had? Was it anxiety or was it depression? Or I'd like to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, it was diagnosed as severe depression. I got to the point where, you had to make a decision, I guess, as to whether you go through the floor or you want to fight on, because you just can't see any way out. And I had to put my faith in the doctors, because I was the sort of guy that I've never asked for help from anyone. I always got through things. I always beat things on my own. But that I just couldn't beat. And it was bloody hard for a person like me to accept that I had to take not only the treatment that I had in the institution, but also taking medication as well. I didn't like it at all, but I had to accept the fact that the only way that I was going to get out of this was to have faith in the people that were treating me.
Interesting. And just with the depression, was there anxiety there? Because I know there's a bit of a difference, because anxiety is like you extreme anxiety is like you don't want to leave the house, you don't want to leave an area, you're scared you might die and stuff like that. Panic attacks or any of that, or not really?
No, it was more, severe depression is bloody, that's the worst place that you can possibly get to. That's when you get to a really heavy, dark place that, as I said, I mean, a lot of people, that's at that point as to whether you make which decision you're going to go in. And, it's a tough place to be, and it's a hard place to get out of it. Now, I was very lucky that when I got out of the hospital, that I had 1 year left on my contract. And I said to my wife, I said, I'm going back. She said, what? You're not going back? I said, I'm going back. I said, I'm not going to finish my career in a psychiatric hospital. I didn't see this in the playbook. This is now how it wasn't going to unfold for me. I wanted to retire under my own terms. So I started to run a bit, and cut down on my medications. But I had a goal of all I wanted to do was play one senior game, and then I'll be able to retire on my own terms and feel good about myself. So I treated it like I'd had an injury, like a hamstring or a pulled muscle or something like that, and I'd take one step forward and two steps back, and just keep that goal in mind as to what I wanted to get to. And then slowly I sort of started coming out of the fog, and things started to lift for me, and I started to see a purpose and somewhere that actually drove me to get to. And I was so grateful that I had that year left on my contract, and Carlton were able to. I mean, they could easily just kick me out of the club, I suppose, but they gave me the opportunity, and I played 5 games, and then I was able to retire under my own terms.
And was Wolsey still coach then, or was it Parkett? Oh, was it 89? Was that?
Yeah. Robert Walls was still coach.
Yeah.
I don't think he. Well, no one understood what mental illness was back then.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't spoken about. I had no idea what it was, and like I said previously, I thought I was going insane, and I was hiding it for everybody else. So, and this was for about a 6-month period where it was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was training harder, and turned to alcohol, and I was trying to do everything I can just to get myself out of it if I could somehow.
Wow.
But funny thing being, about 10 years after all this had happened, a football journalist called Caroline Wilson, who's works with, she rang me up and she said, "Oh, look, I know what happened to you. Are you prepared to talk about it?" And I said, "Well, you don't know what happened, and let me think about it," because no one had spoken about mental illness. It was before Beyond Blue or Black Dog or one of these other support services were around. So I had to go to my wife and spoke to my coach, and they said, "Don't do it." They were trying to protect me, I guess, but I wanted to put it out there because for one, I didn't want to hide behind it. and two, I wanted the AFL to know there's an issue in the game. I wanted people to know that mental illness happens in sport. We're not all these big macho heroes.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to know that they could get through it, whatever they're going through. You can get through it. So anyway, so she wrote the story, and bang, back page of the Age, how Carlton legend was nearly devoured by the game, and it was just overwhelming. It was like I knew mental illness was around because I'd seen it as a kid growing up, but I didn't realise just how big it was. And I was phoned up by former players, partners of people that were going through mental illness at the time. Footy clubs, I started to go out and talk about it. But then I found I had my job as well, and I had my kids at school, and it started to overwhelm me, and I had to pull back. So I pulled back and focus on my job. But in the meantime, throughout the journey and while we got to fifth quarter was, I'd sit back and I'd see in the paper that, or hear of people that had struggled for whatever reason. Yeah. With athletes, a lot of them, when they finish their career, they say that you can die 2 deaths in your lifetime, which I think is quite true. So a lot of people, they lose their identity, their purpose, and they're vulnerable. And when they're vulnerable, they make poor decisions: drugs, alcohol, gambling, relationship problems, can't get a job, go and buy a business they know nothing about. All these stories that we've heard. And then that can then go anxiety, depression, and then sadly into suicide, which we've seen over the last few years, a number of ex-AFL players taking their own lives. So, so it's and then so I sat back and saw all this unfold, and it got to a point that I just didn't think enough was being done, not only in our industry but in sport overall. So we thought up with Kenny Sheldon, a former Carlton player, right? We opened up fifth quarter, and we used to talk about what we can actually do and what it would look like. So Kenny went back to Echuca through COVID, and I kept on going, and got it fifth quarter made into a not-for-profit, and we've got a board of people on helping us out, and a lot of volunteers, and we're trying to have a place, a safe place for former players or former athletes that they can come to, and they can get some sort of help or support or some information that's not currently there. So I don't know. It's become a bit of a passion of mine because it's
nice.
It's become like I don't know. It just seems like the right thing to do. That in sport, I think that most players or most athletes, when they finish a game, it's not about it's not about the recognition or anything like that. And maybe some it might be, but I think it's more about the adrenaline, the adrenaline of the competition, the camaraderie that you have, the structure around you. That's
the change room.
and the support. And then the next day, one day, that's all gone. You're out in the street by yourself.
That's so true. Yeah, that's super. That's so true. I've made some notes while you were talking because I found that to be, and we'll cover them shortly. But Kenny, I mean, there are 2 main points while I was hearing you talk, where when you felt that you wanted to talk about it, did you feel that the more you talked about it and got it out there, the more you began to heal it a bit more inside?
Yeah, definitely. I actually said to Caroline Wilson when the story actually broke and it came out, I felt like there was a big weight taken off my shoulders, because it was never something that I was ashamed of. I was just, no one ever asked me. It took 10 years later for someone to actually pick up the phone and ask me directly about what I went through and would I be prepared to talk about it. I've probably had it in my own mind that if someone had asked me earlier, I still would have made the same decision.
Nice. Well, that reminds me of that saying: when you reveal it, you heal it, which still stands the test of time. The other point I wanted to also touch on was I noticed that when you decided to go back to playing, you need to break that pattern, so to speak. Was that a defining pivot for you, you would say, when you said, listen, I need to break this and I want to go back to playing again? Do you think that was your exit, so to speak?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's because it wasn't. There's no script about how you finish a game. At the end of the day, most of us get sacked, but you know, it came at a point in my time where I still thought I had some good footy left in me, but obviously the people that are in those positions that, you know, could determine how long you're going to play for and what they saw you as worth within the team. So that's it sort of came to crushing down on me, so I suppose, when I felt like I still had another 2 or 3 years left before I got to that point. So I had to do a lot of adjusting, I guess, and trying to get myself through, but also get myself in a mentally healthy state that I can then go on with the next chapter of my life. So, and I think I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I don't hear that being talked about personally in therapy, conversations where, choose something you really like, and when you were talking and you said, I still got some footy in me. It's like, then do that, and it's so healing to hear that even someone who doesn't specifically play that sport, but I love sports in general, like competitive, like real sports. So when you said go deep and go hard, like I can definitely resonate with that. And then when you said, I've got more footy in me, it's like, boom, you get this feeling like that's the cure. That's the cure,
Yeah. No, you're right. I know. I think when I speak to other people that have going through their own struggles, and I can only relate what worked for me, and I can only tell them is perhaps, try and find something or set yourself a goal that's a little bit different. Whether it's walking 5Ks today, but walking 7Ks tomorrow. But if you don't quite get there, it doesn't matter either. But just to try and focus on something which is going to give you that purpose, to try and help you get through it, because it can be done. I mean, I'm a living example of that, and there's a lot of other people. I think mental illness is not a life sentence. It's a chapter in your journey of life, and I had that chapter, and I've had plenty of other chapters since then as well. So. But I'm still here. I mightn't have been there if I had taken a different choice.
Right.
Ken, I've just Sam, you've been hogging the thing, but it's okay. It's fine because I'm the fan, right? You're the American that's coming from Dubai. Like I'm the Carlton supporter. You're new Carlton supporter. Like, but we've got a whole bunch of questions for you, Ken, and I think because I'd like to orchestrate this, that what we'll do is, if you don't mind, we'll have a couple of questions from the chat. There's so many, I might miss some, so add your questions there and see if and we want to ask you a little bit about what you think is happening today, which is causing a little bit of mental health issues for all of us these days with the Blues. But no, I think the jumper punch, if you can put that one back on, Sam, the last question, jumper punch was saying, was that one of your biggest challenges and achievements? So he's saying here, was coming back and playing again one of your greatest challenges and achievements? Just out of curiosity.
Absolutely. From where I was personally to where I got to and to get myself out of was one of my greatest, I think, things that I've achieved in my lifetime, to be honest. But, it's... for people that are going through it, it's no different to their story, and everyone's got a story, and everyone's works a way to get through it, and how they do it, and what works for them. It takes a bit of working out until you actually get there. So, but in answer to the question, I was so happy that I could just finish the game under my terms.
Love that. And do you think, I mean, once you went through and just like that whole situation in, let's say, late 80s, 89, did it ever reoccur back, or was that the last time you dealt with it and you healed and that was it?
Yeah, that was the last time I had to take any medication or anything like that. So I got myself through that period, and I still, I mean, obviously, I still have some flashbacks and stuff like that. But I'm conscious of the emotions and the feelings and the stuff like that might take you back to where you are, and so it's that earlier intervention, I suppose, that I'm aware of, that if I can sense that I might be going down a path that I don't want to go down to, I can shut it off pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's good. You know what we talk about in mental coaching, the word we use is creativity, or get into creative mode. So whatever that is, it's whether or not going back onto the football field or finding something to get creative, start planning your day. Because what happens is when you get into that rut, and this is what we want to talk about, some of the solutions of what we can do. Maybe Sam, you can add to this some of the solutions of, because we deal with so many people that have had depression and anxiety. And what we try to do, Ken, is we try to get to the root cause of what really is the root cause of the problem and how that's spiraled out. And unless you like what you identified it early by, I think you said you went to the psychiatrist and after the game in Carrara, and then hitting it there and then working on it, because it's a challenge. It's like just life. It's hard. It's not easy, but I guess the solution is, from my perspective, is that you just need good support system, and you need to put your hand up and say, "Hey, I've got a problem," and look out for the resources for people to help you.
You do. I think it's it's like blokes being blokes. They don't want to admit that they've got an issue, and they'd rather try and deal with it themselves. And I know when I was going through it, I was thinking I was a burden to my family and all those negative thoughts that you get, and it's really, it's really hard, I think. But because it's spoken about so much nowadays, that there is a lot of support out there for people, and I don't think it's as hard or tough as it was back in the day when it wasn't spoken about. Because back in those days, if someone had a mental health issue, or they'd say they had a bad back, or couldn't go to work because had a bad neck. All these excuses were covering for deeper problems that in society that was frowned upon at the time, because it was sort of that you were bringing shame upon the family. So we've come a long way from those days, but we've still got a long way to go. And I think that's one of the reasons why we set up Fifth Quarter, is to just for people to know that it's there. That something's there for them, because as an industry, we've got to do a lot more than what we currently have done, and a lot more that we can do, I think. And it's a little bit disappointing from the AFL perspective that they haven't come on board, or the AFL Players Association, because as an industry that they're responsible for, we should be looking at anything that can possibly help support not only the past player themselves, but their families, because they're the ones that behind closed doors have to really get hurt the most, really, and they don't know where to turn to, because there's no charity like we've got at Fifth Quarter anywhere in Australia. There is similar ones in overseas, but not to the depth that we're proposing that we'd like to go to. So we're on the start of our journey, and it's been bloody hard just trying to get it to this point, and we've still got a long way to go. But we did a survey through the AFL clubs, through their past players. We had 12 clubs participate, and we asked some questions, and so we had 650 responses, which was really good, so we could get pretty indicative type survey about some of the issues and what they're going through. And so we're grateful for that, and we want to be able to take that information back and present that to the AFL and to the AFL Players Association, and just so they can see what the past players are saying and what sort of help they need.
That's
Very
amazing. Yeah, that's
I've got a question here from one of, I've missed out a lot of the questions, but if I've missed it, put it again in the comments. There's a question here which I thought would be really interesting. Oh no, he's from Rocco. He's just saying, for someone who's so courageous and hearing your stories and inspiration to all of us, love you, Kenny. There's a comment here from Petra, and she says here, Kenny, I'm told that Carlton players receive great support by the club after they retire. Can you talk about this from your experience, or do you know, or was that sensitive? I don't know, but
look, it's improved now. I mean, throughout the survey results, I guess, is that there's two clubs that probably stood out a lot, and that was, Collingwood, because they got a full-time person in that role, Gavin Krasisko, a former player, and he helps triage people and helps transition out of the game. And the AFL, I mean, I'm sure they do also try and prepare players for when they're finished, but there's still no greater shock as to when you actually tapped on the shoulder and you're out the door. And I think one of the hardest things for players is that if they are struggling, they're not going to go back to the club that sacked them. That's the last place they want to go to. So where do they go? There's really nowhere. So we're trying to help fill that void. So we're not trying to replace what the AFL or the AFL Players Association are doing, or the clubs. We just want to fill in the gap and help those players and know that they've got a place that they can come to, whether they need help with a job or financial problem, or whether it's a legal problem, whether it's a mental health issue, that we can triage them to the right services or suggest services they can go to.
Phenomenal. There's a question here from Wayne. He just wants to know what was your age when you retired? It's 89. Like,
yeah, 89. I would have been, probably 31 when I retired.
Still relatively young when you think about it. It's still young.
Yeah,
I'm not in football terms, but I mean, like, it's still. I think when I was at 30, I was still a kid in a way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, look, I've always been pretty honest with myself when it comes to my footy. So I felt in myself that I had, a bit left in the tank. I'd had some injury problems the previous year with a calf that was persistent, and I just couldn't shake it off, and it kept me out of the game for a while. But I got over that, and I came back, and I thought I was, playing good footy and contributing to the team, and it was just an unfortunate period at that time that we weren't travelling that well, and Wolsey was, he was getting frustrated and he was taking it out on the players, and it just became not a fun place to be.
Interesting. I'm just going to pivot a little bit, and I was just going to ask. You go. Because I was going to ask him about the current thing. And okay, go ahead, Sam.
So Kenny, I have a question. I know that you've set up the fifth quarter, which is absolutely wonderful. And
we'll put the info on that. So.
Yeah, we'll put the info as well so people can reach out. So my question would be I know you talk about early intervention, which is amazing. I fully agree with that, 100%. How do you detect early signs? Like, is there a way for people to know when they should reach out? Are there specific times or signals or indications where they could catch it early on? Maybe it's a certain quality of thinking or certain negative thoughts or something like that. Is there anything like that which you could share from your side, having spent a lot of time creating the organization and stuff like that?
I think that people in this position can become very good at masking it. It's they can go into a room and be the life of the party, but behind it all, and so it seems quite normal. But I think you got to look for signs that they're withdrawing from society, or they're acting a bit odd, or different behaviours that they're portraying that they don't usually portray.
Right.
And I think it's just trying to get reach out to them and just checking in and seeing how they're travelling. They were saying, "Are you okay?" I suppose, but it goes a bit deeper than that. But it's also, just so that person knows that you were there for them, and I think that goes a long way. That you don't have to do this on your own.
Right.
That there's people out there that are willing to help you and work with you to try and get you through it, and that's really important. I think it's half the battle, and I feel for the people that are isolated out on a farm or something like that, and they've only got themselves and their tractor and their dog perhaps, and it's tough. It's bloody tough. But you can get through it, like I said before, and it's and when you do come out the other side, I actually found I was actually probably a better person for it, to be honest.
Right.
After I went through, it sort of made me understand myself a lot better than perhaps what I did, and I also probably had a lot more empathy than what I had before, even though I thought I was a pretty empathetic person anyway. But so for I think out of everything that you do go through, that you get these learnings. So it's been whilst at the time it was horrific, but for me now it's been able to I guess pass on that all those learnings to other people to try and help them in some way, whatever I can do.
100%. I think the fact that you're doing it and you're such a like a big name in the sport and people look up to you, I think that holds massive weight. I think it's a huge contribution in terms of paying it forward, which is absolutely amazing. And I like what you said about looking for signs where if people act a little bit differently than they normally act, I call it baseline, where people deviate away from their baseline normal attitudes in their relationships, and that's a good sign to look out in your circles, where if people look and sound a little bit off, where they don't normally behave in this way, it's so good to have at least one person to reach out and say, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" and try to understand more. So I'm happy that you said that as well. The other point moving forward is, have there been any success stories, people that you've helped in part of the group that you could share, or maybe situations that you've gone through, or examples?
Yeah, no, there's, I guess, without giving anyone's confidence away, but people have reached out at different times to try and help them understand what they're going through, and I can only relate to them what I went through and how I was able to get myself out of it. But at the end of the day, it's as tough as it is, and there's only one person that can get yourself out of it, and that's yourself. And the when you realise that, and when you know the only way out is me, that I've got to do this myself, and you take that on, I think that's where your strength comes from.
That's huge.
Can I just say, Ken, you've been inspiration on the field and off the field, and everyone the comments we're getting are absolutely amazing. And what a privilege to have you as a Carlton player also, that we can do that. There is a comment here, I don't know, I'm just going to put this on, and this is from Enzo, and he says, does it help you, Kenny, knowing you brought so much joy to many supporters during your playing years and beyond? You were a crowd favorite, and you, Harms, and the Buzz were like gods to me.
Yeah. But, look, I did go back to West Australia when I retired, and my wife's an Italian girl, and she didn't like it over in WA. But I was so happy to come back to Victoria because the supporters of Carlton are just terrific. To this day, if I know that I gave them joy as to when I was playing footy, then that's what you play for, really. That's part of it, as well as trying to win premierships. But you play for your supporters and play for the people that follow you. So I was happy to come back, and it's interesting now when you look at the current day players and you think, how we've let that second spot slip that we.
God.
Yeah, that was just there for the taking, really, and.
Well, that was my next question to you, Ken. I was going to pivot towards a little bit more, but I was going to say more positive news, but it's not really what's happening with the Blue. And are you watching a lot of the? Can I just say before I forget? Ken, that I met you about 25 years ago, and I told you this over the phone. I'm not sure if you remember me. I looked different then, didn't have the beard, but I met you at a family day with. I would have to say was probably you were just walking and they were having a family day and they had sausages at Princess Park and you were with Silvani, I think. So you were just walking in on the ground and you were so nice and you left an impression on me. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate that. I think it's, I get, still a lot of, I get overwhelmed, I suppose. It's just for the fact of, that Carlton, that in those days that were a successful team, and people still recognise that team as being, one of the great teams, and it was a real honour and a privilege to me to be able to play with some of the players that I played with, not only as I said earlier in the Carlton's history, but also were probably some of the greatest players in the history of the game. So,
100%.
So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, Ken, just to get onto as we start wrapping up, also just getting onto what's happening currently at the football club. My question, I guess, and probably sure people in the audience would want to ask: do you still go to games, and are you watching? And what's your current? Just pivoting off mental health, but what's your current feeling on what's happening with the Blues, and what are you thinking? Like on that side, do you just want to get your feedback on that?
Yeah, look, it's it's a tough one because we'll all come away from last year, and come in that game against Melbourne, and I was at that game, and I don't think I've heard anything like it. When Carlton got up and beat Melbourne, the whole stand just reverberated, and it was just an amazing time to be there, and that gave us a lot of belief, and we lost the game to Brisbane up there, and after the first quarter we were all starting to look for grand final tickets, I think, and so it was a bit premature. Off the back of that, coming into this season, we all felt that this could be our year, and we got ourselves in a position that we're really top two. That's where you want to be. We've let that go and we've let that slip now. That's up to the players to be able to come back from that. 6 injuries, playing the West Coast over there, gives, I remember in '82 that we had a lot of injuries as well, and we played a lot of kids, and those kids stood up, when they had to. And maybe this week and the following week they'll stand up again, and they'll get us back into a position where some of the other players will get their fitness back and be able to come back into the team, and we'll be able to be a strong team going to the finals.
Well, I hope they do, because I think just like every even when you're talking about with mental health, it creates opportunities, and opportunities are there. So like what you were saying is that you become a different man after what you experience. And I've gone through anxiety before. Sam has done it too, and although it was tough at that particular time, and it's like what's happening with the team at the moment, it's a real big opportunity to go after and test what things that have not been tested before, and you get a new, I think, paradigm shift out of that. I'm going to pivot a little bit. There's so many questions. you've been catching them, Sam. So there's a couple
Yeah.
for Ken, and then I think what we'll do is, because we've had you for a while and we really, really appreciate it. And someone said that you should maybe put on the number 9. Although, for WA in WA this week, we'd probably need you. I reckon you can still kick a couple. So there's a couple of questions here. Do you want to put them up, Sam? Or
Yep,
there's
I
a couple of
actually
good
saw.
ones, actually.
Yeah, I saw some questions from the Scotty Tompkins, which was pretty cool. Just gonna find it very quickly. Here we go. You want to read it out, Rash?
Yeah, it says here, Ken. It says, would you ever make a recommendation to intervene while a football player is still playing, or would you leave that to the club?
You mean me personally, or?
Yeah, that's what I think he means.
Yeah, I think sometimes, when you're within the confines of a footy club, it's a great place to be when things are going well. When things are bad, it's you can't hide. And when you're going through mental health issues, it's really hard because you don't want to be seen as a weakness, even though people say it isn't seen, and it's not. Your perception is when you're in that environment that you don't want to be seen to give up your spot because you can't mentally, you're not attuned, and you're going through something that you don't quite understand. And I guess that in my own case, that's what happened to me. But I didn't have that person that intervened. I mean, I just had club doctors that would give me stronger sleeping pills at the time. So it's really important in footy clubs. And I'm sure they've got their own people now. I'm not close enough to the clubs to know what they do within the club walls now. But I'm pretty well across what happens after the game now.
I want to add on to that, Kenny. Thank you. Do you think if that entity was available to the club and they can just simply reach out, do you think players would actually take it, or still kind of feel a little bit like, oh, maybe, what would people still think of me if I actually took it up? Or, you know what I mean? If it was still there and easily reachable for them within the club, do you think they'd still be as open?
Are you talking about Carlton?
Yeah.
Sam? Like Carlton?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Good question.
You mean something like a fifth quarter within the club, or the...
Yeah.
Well, I think what we found is most of the past player clubs are run by volunteers. So, they have a small committee of ex-players that people can turn to, and they try and help them the best they can. But the issue is now that the problems become so great now with the AFL women as well, that they're starting to be overwhelmed, and they haven't got the resources or the expertise to be able to deal with this. So it's and I guess that's the reason that we set up a fifth quarter, is to be independent of all clubs in the AFL, so people have a place that they can go to that, there's no stigma, there's no shame, there's just a place there that can support you, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be about mental health, it could be about a job. And what eventually we'd like to have is like a drop-in centre where people can come to and get information and get support.
Right. Well, the reason I'm asking it from that perspective is because I'm a proponent of, like, how do we make mental health cool? And what I mean by cool is an attractive, appealing, to invite people naturally, openly, to talk about it more. And that's my narrative. I mean, as a coach, I work with corporates, I work with some athletes, I work with executives, and I try to normalize that conversation. And the moment we normalize it, it becomes more digestible and, like, easy to talk about,
That's a really good point, Sam. And funny enough, one of the guys that is involved with us is a clinical psychologist, and he spoke about, we need to normalise how athletes transition out of the game. they're going to feel, this letdown or disassociated with the sport. It's a normal feeling, that you're going to go through, and as you say, by having those sort of conversations, then I think then that helps break down a lot of the stigma and the loss of your loss of confidence, and so I think you're on the money there. And that's something that we would like to try and do, because if you've been in sport, you've seen it yourself that this isn't just isolated to AFL. It happens across all sports. It just so happens that ours is a collision sport at the moment, and concussion is taking over a lot of the reporting around football. But we do know that it happens in athletics, in swimming, and in all types of sport. And I think as a country, we want to encourage our kids to be the best they could possibly be in the sport they chose to be in. But we also want to know that there's going to be some sort of support at the end of it as well.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, because you mentioned the level of adrenaline, the camaraderie, the whole structure is like, I feel it. Like I resonate completely to that feeling. It's such a high. It's so amazing that one day this is going to end. Like it's not going to go on indefinitely. So when that time comes, I think it's probably equally even more important maybe that there's some sort of a support system that will help them transition to everyday, normal civilian life, so to speak.
Yeah, you're right. I think the clubs and the AFL would argue that they already do that, but I don't know how well they do it. And there's been a couple of cases where kids have taken their own lives just in recent times that didn't play a senior game and didn't qualify for the benefits of the AFL Players Association. So there's a fault there, and
Right.
for that, their dreams over and they're shattered. Their parents don't know what to do, and they've got nowhere to turn to. So,
100%.
The kid from WA used to play for GWS. He took his life recently. He used to play for Fremantle.
Yeah,
I forget the name. Someone in the chat will tell me, but yeah. Oh my God, this is
No, that's right. So it's but some good points there made by Sam about normalising things. I think that is definitely something that in sport that we should try and do, because it's there's too many people out there that suffer in silence for too long. Some people transition out of sport and they just get on with their life, and they do it quite easily. But there's a lot, and everyone that you talk to when you bring up this subject, when you actually, if they really open and honest with themselves, they say exactly the same thing, that in one way or another they found it hard to transition out of sport.
Right. Rash, I'm just gonna. I don't know how much more time.
I don't think we got that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Sam.
I wanted
but
to.
We should wrap up, and because we've taken a lot of time from Ken's time, we really appreciate it. But we got one more, and there's a couple of questions here, but I want to.
Well,
go.
Let's go with the questions that are popping in through online, and then I want to just wrap up with one question for Kenny.
No, you go with your question. Go with it.
No, go for it. Go see the audience. They've had like loads of beautiful questions. Like, let's cover one.
All right, there's one here, which I'll just ask you. It says, this is from our friend Gina. She says, is there an app on the fifth quarter for players to look into, or just the AFL? It's an issue for suburban football too. I'd be willing to put it up on my AFL past present site. Is there an app, Ken?
There's not an app. You've got the website, haven't you?
Yep, I'll put that on. Yep, I'll put that on. Yep.
Yeah, and we're very much about community as well. So that's a good question, because we went out to Keilor Park versus Pascoe Vale a couple of weeks ago, and we did a fifth quarter mental health and wellbeing match day. And we had guest speakers there just to test it as a model. because we all came from community football clubs ourselves, and I think that it's a wonderful opportunity for past players to be able to give back to the community through their lived experiences, through whatever it might be, racism, bullying, mental health. They've got so much to offer and so much to give that there's a lot of mental health institutions are trying to get into sport now because they see that as a great platform to be able to put their programs through. And what I'm trying to say is that, we could be doing the same as in sport. We should be running our own programs and getting the millions of dollars that the government are giving out.
100%.
Develop our own programs to look after our own. And I think there's enough within the industry to be able to do that.
100%. We fully agree with you. That's for sure. I mean, this is the change room, Kenny, and the reason we called it the change room is, for a variety of reasons, but two of which is, it has to do with sport, with change, what we could do differently, our behaviors, personal life, professional life, sports life. And so I just wanted to kind of wrap up with a final question in the change room, that if you were in the change room and you were the coach, okay, and let's assume that you're coaching the Carlton Football Club, what word or sentence would you tell them, knowing what you know now, before they get back onto the pitch? What would you tell them?
That's a really good question, Sam. You're putting Ken Hunter on the thing. He wasn't ready for these hard-hitting questions from a bloke from Dubai wearing a Carlton cap. But all right, cool, with an American accent.
It's a good one, and it's funny that it's funny that you get those questions from time to time that really throw you. And I've always had the question about who's the best player that you played against, and who's the best player you played with. And then I had someone ask me, who's the best person you met in footy? And I thought, that's a good question. And so like you, Sam, that's a good question. I think it's just about going to have fun. We're by putting so much pressure on ourselves now that let's just go and have fun. Enjoy each other's company, enjoy each other's debut of these kids. Let's get some energy through that, and let's whatever happens, but let's just enjoy it.
Love it. Go have fun, Rash. Go have some fucking fun, will ya?
Right.
Program, otherwise I would have sworn a long time ago.
Ken, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We initially told you 15 minutes, so 15 or 20 minutes. I'm sorry to have you so long. We had so many comments. Thanks for joining us. I hope we can stay in touch, and it's been a pleasure having you on. And any final words for us? We're gonna put your info here also again. So this is the website I've just put on there, which is www.FIFTHQTR, spelt with KTR.org.au. And if anyone wants to get in touch with your organization, it's info@thefifthquarter.org.au.
Yeah, and anyone's got any ideas or thoughts, or be more than happy to have a chat, because what we need now is help really to get it up. So we're sort of reaching out to different people to try and help do that. So it's been a hard slog, but we feel like we're getting there. So thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Thank you, and as we like to say, go Blues, because we hope we win this week in Perth, in your old stomping ground around there. So no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ken, and we'll be in touch on the other side. And it's always been a pleasure. Go Blues.
Good on you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Ken.
Cheers. Thanks, Ken.
Wow, how good was that?
That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful.
Guys,
beautiful.
I hope you appreciated that. Thanks you to Vince Lochisano, who organized for us to have Ken on. We thought it was an absolute great synergy with our show, The Change Room. And seriously, the guy was, as a kid, was one of my favorite players. I didn't have number 9, but I had number 7, the Dominator, on my back, but it's okay. But he was like second or third favorite player, but inspirational on the ground and inspirational off the ground. Seriously. And when someone says legend, we take that lightly, but Kenny's an absolute legend. And guys, go out there, support Ken Hunter. Is a great of our club. If you got ideas and and putting your hand up, and for local community football and the AFL, he's doing a great thing. He's always been doing a great thing from day dot. So we really appreciate Ken's time. We're going to wrap up on the other side. So any final words, my friend?
Yeah, bro. I think that was a fantastic episode. We're going to thank Kenny Hunter once again. It was a fantastic time. I loved his approach, his kind of the way he approaches the topic is very pleasant, very kind of calm and stuff. And it appears we share a lot in common in terms of like the approach and the stuff that he talked about, like, when he revealed it and then when he pivoted and went back in again. And these are all learnings that we hope like the audience will take forward. Like if you're going through something, do something that you like. Maybe you want to listen to some music or go for a walk or reach out and, kind of take your mind off something. I think those are wonderful things that anyone can do at any given time, which is amazing. I love also the fact that he mentioned early intervention is the best intervention. Yeah, catching things early. We all have a ton of friends. We all belong to kind of certain pockets or circles of people we know. So if you find someone that's kind of off their game or, they're behaving a little bit differently and stuff, reach out, give them a nudge, ask about them, because they may be going through something that is extremely tough to talk about, maybe because they don't know how to talk about it. And so they feel very withdrawn, something that Kenny referred to as well. I think it was loaded. This episode was absolutely loaded today when we talked about this subject.
Before we do our formalities, before we finish also, I think this is a good reminder that we should stick together. I mean, we spoke about this pre-show, Sam, that, the motto of Carlton, and although we're not a Carlton show, we're about mental fitness, and we both love the Blues, but this is the time right now to stay stronger together. And that's where, for me, it's really important that we've got to stay stronger together in this moment. And things like Ken Hunter can inspire all of us to go out there and be united in a way, and maybe be the club that's we should support Ken and be the club that goes out there and cares about mental health, well-being, and stuff like that. So anyway, that's my 2 bob worth.
Not only that, Rash, but the guy's giving his time. It's a non-profit organization, and
it's giving his time to us too. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, for someone to actually go that far, who's actually experienced it, like here's someone who's experienced and went through that, to share. That's why when Rash told me, like, can't wait for this show, I love to actually hear someone who's experienced something, because they're bound to give you like deep insights. And I just find it really important. That's why we want to bring a lot of value in the change room. So thanks to everybody who joined. And Rash, how do you want to close this off?
Well, a couple of things. I want to say that I finally got a copy of the book. See, the physical copy. There it is. So again, guys, for the record and off the record, it's out on the 20th. Now, you can only order the physical copy on the 20th, but they got the Kindle pre-order, and I think I will have the link. The link's in the YouTube description. That's right. So that's one thing I want to say. Please show your love and support. It's not easy to write a book, and it's about the music industry and stuff. But the other thing I want to mention is the following. The Jumper Punch live show, number 2, 31st of August. So go out, get your tickets. They are moving really fast. It will sell out, I'm telling you, because they've only got a capacity. And I heard from Rocco, and Rocco will tell me in the comments, they're going to try and do like a fund me thing for you for number 3 to bring you in from Dubai to Melbourne, and maybe we can do a change room also with the
Oh, for sure. That's awesome.
I've sort of I just made that up, but just sort of like putting it out there. Oh God! All right.
Yeah.
There's been some amazing. Look, I just wanted to thank people in the chat. As usual, guys. There's Peter V,
The crew.
Petra, Lana, Gina, Wayne. Oh my God, you guys are
Frank.
amazing. Enzo, Frank,
Enzo.
What about Scotty? Scotty Topkins.
Scotty, beautiful
We
question.
really appreciate all your support. We're on every Thursdays at 7. It's new time slot. Our executive producer, Mr. Rocco, reckons that we're better on at this time. The other shows to watch out for is Blue Sunday, which I hosted last week in replacement of Joe, whether he was busy. That's on Sunday with David Rhys-Jones and Vince. Tuesday's a grand show, which is the Jumper Punch, and they went on for I think almost 5 hours, Sam. Unbelievable. And they had an outage during the show, and the comments were going nuts. Like, no, the show stopped for like 5 minutes, and still there was like 200 people in crazy show. Seriously, crazy show.
That's amazing.
They got double, and they were on Thursdays. Okay, enough from us. We hope that you enjoyed our show. We put a lot of time and effort to this. Big thanks to Vince and Rocco for organizing Ken Hunter on our show. We think seriously, this guy's absolutely inspired us. Seriously, he's amazing. He's not just a great player, but a great person. Seriously, he's one of the nicest guys I've met. And I've worked with a lot of celebrities. This guy, one word, humility. You know, he's just got so humble. Okay, so on that note, I think it's time for us to go. It's been a pleasure. Every Thursday, 7 p.m. On the count of 3, you know what to do. 1, 2, 3.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.